if you need to do that, and we were just talking about, not going to the board with a I don't know gov, and also not having conversations about tin and wire, but outcomes. But surely modernisation of infrastructure and your assets is a necessity to build upon. So are you then translating that necessity into effectively a project and then into an outcome? Is that your jobs to build that story out and then say, oh, and by the way, that's means we need X new servers or whatever it is that you need? How do you get over the fact that there is legacy that does need transforming at the end of the day, and some of that's not sexy stuff? How do you Natascha, let's go start with you.
I think it's really important that you're just honest, right? The board and Exco, the reason why I'm on Exco and why I get on with them so well is because I am very honest. And I've had lots of conversations where I've said, all right, there's stuff in the data center. If we don't get rid of it, we're going to be in trouble. It's old, unsupported, etc. And, I don't think they've really understood the full breadth of the risks around that. But they've trusted me because I've been transparent about this is what it's going to give you, this is what risk we're going to take away from you, and this is the outcome.
Okay, so we're saying, actually, we're building up confidence in the board and our stakeholders such that when we do need to call on that, we can pull the card that says, something risky here, we need to do something about it, please give me the support and investment. Conor, what do you think?
I think you're absolutely right, and I think I go back a stage and actually you set the tone when the initial investment case is put forward, because you've got to look at the full life cycle. What's the cost to run and maintain this? Not the cost just to build it, because if you just focus it on build, it will very quickly become technical debt. Yeah. So that whole life cycle, so you're signing up to 5, 10, 15 years of the service, not just a 6-month, 1 week build, whatever methodology you choose, and that changes their outlook then, and because it really impacts the overall business model. It's not the IT model, it's the business model. Are we pricing the products and services right in the marketplace, looking at that's the cost to run and maintain this technical service for a period of time? So you really start bringing the sort of value chain and the IT architecture together, looking at the products and services and all of the components of the products and services.
Because we used to, I remember maybe about 10, 15 years ago, we used to be heavily reliant on the architect who would deliver henceforth the strategy of the change that needed to be delivered, and that got translated into projects.
Much simpler world back then, right?
I don't know about that.
Well, different problems.
I had lots of conversations with architects.
I think in terms of the scope of the IT function.
Absolutely.
That's what I mean in terms of the scope, in terms of, 15 years ago, internet and email was in its infancy. People were, still kind of questioning whether, some of this stuff would be mainstream in some industries, right? Whereas today, everything has, almost everything has moved to digital, and so that's why I say the complexity. I think the days of having one, as an architect by background, most of my career has been in IT architecture. The days of having one architect in an organisation are long gone, right? You've got lots of specialist architects doing different parts of the architecture.
Yeah. So, I mean, Tom, can I come to you? Is the architecture function then perhaps no longer all powerful in terms of designing the future of the technology function? Is that role, the architect, as it used to be, gone, as Oliver was just saying? And in fact, now we're talking about specialists that contribute to your business outcome vision. What's your view?
Yeah, so I agree with Oliver completely. Because of the technology, right, becoming more complex, there are more technologies out there. Architecture, right, in terms of that traditional sense of a box and capability in the box, right, that's pretty much dead. But there is still a place for architecture, for sure, right? But I would abstract it even a little bit more and talk about capabilities, right? Technical capabilities, not in this sense, not business capabilities and business outcomes. When we talk about building that transformation, right, within technology, right, we also need to look at what technical capabilities, right, we have and what technical capabilities we want to bring to the future, bring to the table, right? As an example, when you talk about migrating from your traditional data center to the cloud, okay, there has to be a realization of the architecture, the fundamental platform between a data center and the cloud is completely different, right? In a data center, you need you need a bigger box. You buy a box with bigger CPUs, right? In the cloud, you don't do that, right? What you do is you buy more boxes So you scale not vertically, but you scale horizontally. So that architecture, that capability, right, in that migration that you're trying to bring forth, right, that changes. Yeah. So I would really advocate when you talk about sort of that technical change, right? You talk about the technical capabilities that you have and what you need to have moving forward. Yeah.
John, what do you think?
I think it's important that you think about where the architecting gets done. So do you have a traditional model of there's an architect who then lays down the law for a bunch of people to come in and build something? That was possibly never the right model anyway. So how that role gets embedded into the team, but it is, I have architects, and you can see the people who have a commanding knowledge of an area are people that everyone wants to talk to. They literally have a ticket machine at their desk. I was talking to one of my guys today. He said it's like being at the doctor's surgery. Just take a ticket. I'll be with you in a minute. And I think because people want their knowledge. They want to understand how they can approach a particular problem, and they want that guidance. So I look at things like what are the principles you're trying to get to. So what do you care about the most in the way you build things? And what you said about the cloud is it is interesting because as an ex-developer, it's quite hard to finally accept that actually it's not about slaving for hours over making the code most beautifully efficient. It's just, will it scale, and will it scale in a simple and clean way? So
secure way.
Yeah, and I mean for us, security is everything. So you see,
developers have got lazy.
Yeah, I think it is probably for most companies. But it's also there's a competitive advantage in security if you do it better than anyone else. But I think if you look at services which have been built, so sometimes it's not about old hardware or old software. It's actually just the complexity of what's been built makes it difficult to manage, difficult to scale. It doesn't meet the requirements. You can't make it go faster because it's so interwoven with systems that don't perform well. And that itself is becoming one of the new art forms. How do you build really simple things that can be put together in really simple ways and be very efficient at running quite complex outcomes, quite complex tasks? And that is it's one of the things to really pursue, is to see how do you do that? What are the things that really matter in those conversations? Because it is quite tempting for companies to just pile on more and more products and more and more technologies, which seem good at a surface level, but if you look at them over a 5-year period, it's going to cost you a lot of money, and it's very complex to run and understand exactly what you've built.
That really resonates with me. I mean, the point solution problem, we see it a lot, particularly. So Tanium often gets put in the cybersecurity space, and there's a massive amount of point solutions that solve a tiny little bit of the cybersecurity problem. And actually, I think what you're talking about, and what we also talked about earlier about capabilities, for me, one of the enabling building blocks is also to focus on platforms as part of the architecture. So rather than lots of little point solutions fixing tiny little pieces, where do you look for strategic platforms? So getting that balance of best of breed versus platforms right is obviously a constant kind of argument of where do you draw the line. But for me, having those enabling platforms you can then build on is really important, and that's absolutely where we play, is in being an enabling platform in customers' architecture.